Well, good evening, everyone. It's lovely to see so many of you here. My name's Nikki Copeland. On behalf of Instant Apostle Publishers, I really would like to extend a very warm welcome to all of you, and especially to Catherine. Instant Apostle really is delighted to be publishing this book. And personally, I've had the privilege of reading it already. Actually, I was probably one of the first to read it, and it's such a good book. I mean, as an editor, I'm sure you can understand I read an awful lot of books, and consequently I don't tend to read very much for pleasure. So when I do, it's quite a small list of things that I would actually choose to read. But I have to say that this book is one that would be very close to the top of my list, because it's great. I really, really enjoyed reading it. And I'm sure any of you who have read Catherine's first book, The Girl at the End of the Road, would agree that she really is a great writer. So, yeah, The Key of All Unknown, it's a real pleasure to read. It's beautifully crafted, very well put together. I'm not going to say any more about the book itself, because I think Catherine's going to do that herself. But just to say, for the endorsements, I think really they say it all. Canon J. John, who's a very well-known local church leader, he called it a brilliant, thought-provoking, well-crafted tale that deserves the widest possible circulation. So let's take that on board. Tell all your friends, tell all your family, give them for Christmas presents. You know, they really will thank you for that. And Howard Linsky, who's quite a well-known writer of crime fiction, he said, an intriguing and chilling premise makes The Key of All Unknown a page-turner with a highly original protagonist, and I would certainly echo that as well. But without further ado, I will hand over to Catherine and look forward to hearing more about the book.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm really delighted with the turnout, because when I told Graham I was going to have the event on a Friday night, he was saying, "Ooh, you won't get many people like to socialise on a Friday night." And as the day drew closer, I've had lots of people saying, "Really can't come, I've got this on, I've got that on." I knew how many people were not coming tonight. I didn't really have an idea of how many were coming. So I'm absolutely really delighted to see you all. And thank you for choosing to socialise with me tonight. And I hope you have a good evening. Please do talk to someone new, because there's lots of different groups of people here that I know from different places, so not many of you may know each other. So introduce yourselves. I have to use my notes, I'm afraid, because I'm not a very polished public speaker. But I'm particularly thrilled to see so many who came to my launch in March of The Girl at the End of the Road. 2 book launches in 1 year seems a little greedy, doesn't it? It's been quite exhausting for me, and I hope it's not too tedious for you. Thank you to my editor, Nikki Copeland, for all her hard work on the book and for helping me out tonight. And of course the rest of the Instant Apostle team, who took a huge risk and offered me a contract on this book when I'd only written the first 3 chapters. I must mention my wonderful beta readers, who cheerfully ploughed through an early draft and gave me their honest feedback. It's not easy to say yes to someone when they ask you to read their manuscript and to ask them to tell you the truth about it. So thank you to, not everybody's here, but Doug Hewitt, Elizabeth Rutt, Anne Shearer, Chris Shaw, my husband Graham, and my daughter Lizzie. And of course the Beau Saint-Bear writers, some of whom are here tonight, who gave me vital, critical feedback in the early chapters. Special mention to my writing tutors over the years, Lynn Garner, Pamela Mayan, David Richardson. So if any of you are budding writer, have a word with David, because he writes poetry and children's books. And Claire Hobber, who's here as well. Yes, she heads up the Beau Saint-Bear writers, so again, pick her brains. Now, most of you know that I became unwell soon after the launch of my first novel back in March. And in fact, I went into hospital on the day that it became available online and in shops. And I was planning to spend that day on social media, posting and tweeting, but the best laid plans and all that. And it became a bit of a tale of the unexpected. I woke up with a rash of non-blanching spots, which you first of all think it must be stress because of everything that's been going on. But I had some unexplained bruises and some blood blisters in my mouth, and went to my GP straight away, and he sent me to Watford Hospital for tests. And I was only in there about 3 hours before a registrar from haematology came and sat down next to my bed, and I knew the news wasn't going to be good. And I was told I'd developed idiopathic thrombocytopenia, which is where my immune system destroys my blood platelets and prevents the blood from clotting. So I was given medication and taken to the critical dependency unit to be observed overnight in case I was bleeding internally. And I was told that I wouldn't sleep because of the medication that I'd been put on. So I lay in the dark and I listened to the sounds of the hospital and the cries of an elderly lady opposite who kept asking where she was and if anyone was there. And I'd often wondered what it would be like if I was suddenly faced with a life-threatening condition, because I'd seen my own father die from cancer a few years previously. And I'd wondered whether he'd been able to hear me and my mother and my sister as we'd sat by his bed in those last days of unconsciousness. He believed he was going to a better place, and he'd been very brave up to the last. But I wondered what thoughts were going through his mind, if any, as he faced that greatest unknown. And this, in fact, was the initial inspiration for my current novel. The irony of my own situation didn't escape me. I was halfway through the draft of The Key of All Unknown, a book about a woman in a critical condition in hospital. As she lies in bed, she desperately tries to remember what happened to her and questions the beliefs that she's built her life upon. And now I was lying in my own hospital bed, thinking about the meaning and the purpose of my own life. By the next day, my mouth had stopped bleeding, my blood pressure was stable, and I was sent home with high dosage steroids to switch off my faulty immune system. During the days that followed, I spent most of my time in bed, but sleep eluded me. The insomnia was chronic, and I was surviving on a couple of hours of sleep a night at most. Although physically exhausted, my mind was wide awake, and I decided to continue writing, tapping away on my laptop during the night while my family was asleep. Having just experienced my own life-threatening moment and spell in hospital, the ideas just poured out of me, and within a week, I'd completed 30,000 words and finished the first draft. The Key of All Unknown is the story of brilliant scientific researcher Tilda Moss, who wakes up in hospital unable to speak or move and with no recollection of what's happened to her. Determined to find answers and prove to her family and doctors that she's not in a persistent vegetative state, she searches for clues in the conversations that she overhears in her hospital room and in the fractured memories that haunt her. On the edge of death and questioning the value of her life, Tilda's only hope is to unlock the key of all unknown. The saying goes, we should walk a mile in a person's shoes before we judge them. In this book, I was lying in another woman's hospital bed whilst lying in my own. I believe things happen for a reason. I was given the opportunity to immerse myself in another person's reality while writing this book, and that's the power of fiction. It lets you penetrate the mind of another with no intermediary but a piece of paper. Whether you're a writer or a reader, stories offer that possibility of going inside the other and experiencing vicariously a little of the strange and wonderful and terrible thing it is to be human. I'm passionate about the power of stories to transform lives, to transform my own life. It's much easier to remain fixed within one's own limitations than to enter into someone else's story and to change yourself and your worldview as a result. I've made an amazing recovery. I'm so grateful to my family and friends for their love, support and prayers. There's a 1 in 3 chance the problem could return in future. Like all of us, I walk that narrow path between life and death. But now I have a better understanding of how I might react at the end. I've learned that it's not the doubts or the strength of one's faith that counts, but the strength of the one in whom you put your faith. I feel so privileged to be here tonight and thankful that anyone wants to read my writing and enter the worlds that I've created. I hope the Key of All Unknown stretches your imagination a little and you'll begin to ponder the great unknown which surrounds our life on earth. And I'm going to just do a little short reading if that's okay, just to give you a flavour. So I'm going to do the prologue and chapter 1. It's quite short, so don't worry. if I see you yawning, I'll just abridge it. Okay. We lie next to each other on the grass, holding hands. The late afternoon, plump and golden as a pear, is thick with pollen. I watch the shadow of the sycamore tree as it lengthens over the grass. Long blades prickle the back of my legs. Diaphanous creatures dance above our heads in a wild frenzy, unaware of the frosts that will descend like Armageddon in a few months' time. I know I'll be covered with unsightly bites tomorrow, but I'm willing to pay the price. So, do you feel like an accident of the universe today? He asks. Not an accident, an outcome, perhaps. That can't explain what we're feeling, what I'm feeling, Tilda. It's a biochemical process. No higher meaning? It means something to me, isn't that enough? Our picnic plates are crawling with ants. Michael waves away a drowsy wasp and packs the remains of the food and the rubbish into his rucksack. I lie completely still to calm the trembling under my skin, caught between magic and logic. It's just the ticking of my biological clock. The heat is leaching from the day, the happiest of my life, and for the first time I sense autumn in the air. The shadow from the tree is creeping over me like a bruise, a dark longing, slow, inexorable. I can't bear to leave this place, can't bear to stay. I watch as he cleans his sunglasses on the bottom of his t-shirt. His face is strangely naked without them. He has 2 red pinch marks at the top of his nose. Let's go, he says. Go where? Back to my place, of course. He pulls me up when he sees me shiver, but I'm not cold. He throws his arm across my shoulders as we walk down the hill towards the descending sun. I squint up at him, dazzled by the intensity of his gaze. We are drenched in liquid light. My eyes are watering. I close them against the brilliance, and when I open them, I'm plunged into darkness. Chapter 1. The darkness is absolute. It must be the middle of the night. My heart lurches with disappointment. I've been dreaming of Michael. I lie quite still on smooth sheets, resisting the resurrection of consciousness like a diver resurfacing, careful of the pain that's waiting if I rise too fast. It was so real, realer than real. How did the sunlight glow so brightly in my sleeping mind? A warm, fetid smell still lingers in my nostrils. The scrape of a grasshopper synchronises with the pulse of blood in my ears. If I concentrate, perhaps I can fall back into that warm evening when Michael swings his hand in mine and we buy a bottle of wine at the off-licence on the way to his flat. He will tell me he loves me and we will kiss on his sofa. I try to close my eyes and spirit myself back to sleep, but I've forgotten the knack. Forgotten how to make my eyelids shut. Forgotten if they're even open. Perhaps I'm still asleep. Relax. Breathe deep. I ignore the pressure in my head. I see myself in his bedroom mirror, my hair tangled and full of grass. He laughs at his forehead, red and shiny from the sun. Have I crossed that border back into a dream, or am I remembering something real? My head throbs. I don't think I can be asleep. Such pain belongs to the physical world. Did I have too much to drink last night? I can't remember, but this is worse than any hangover I've had before. My mouth is dry and tastes of salt. A rasp from swallowing. Maybe I'm suffering from sunstroke, the curse of the pale-skinned. I reach for the water in my bedside table, but my arm won't respond. I'm paralysed with sleep. Usually a chink of moonlight creeps between my bedroom curtains. Usually I hear a distant drone from the dual carriageway. My heart lurches upwards. A spasm of pain ripples down my ribs. This is not my room. These are not my sheets. They're too smooth and cool. I always sleep on brushed cotton. I strain to hear the sound of breathing at my side. Am I with him at last? Is he here beside me? A heartbeat, silence, a silence more absolute than the darkness. The world wobbles. There is nobody with me, and I don't know where I am. Something is very wrong. Think. I must think. I need to work out where I am and what has happened. Was I with Michael last night? Or was that a memory from an earlier time? Or perhaps no memory at all, but a wish so strong that I dreamed we were together. Dread has me by the throat. I want to go home, but my arms and legs are not responding. Perhaps I've had some kind of stroke. Is that why the blood's pounding in my temples? Thoughts scatter in panic. It's ludicrous. I'm slim, fit and relatively young. Stay calm, focus on the last thing I remember. I retrace my steps, scrolling backwards. I reach a gap, a wall, a black hole. Frustration rises, hot like lava beneath the crust, searching for an escape. I need an expletive to release the pressure, but can't remember the expression. I'm lost in the spaces between the words, lying on a bed in the darkness. Perhaps I've been drugged. That would explain the hyperreality of my hallucination. I remember a newspaper article about rohypnol, but I don't go to pubs on my own, and I'm inconspicuous in a crowd. I've never been the type to receive unwanted attention from strangers, so why can't I remember what happened last night? Panic sweeps through my body, faltering my heart. Pain oozes from my head, down my neck and into my chest, constricting my ribs so tightly I feel as though I'm being crushed in a vice. The grasshopper calls faster, more of a bleep than a chirrup, and I'm trapped in the key, high-pitched and impersonal, and lost in the pain. Footsteps. Someone's coming. A rectangle of light suddenly dazzles. From the corner of my half-open eyes I see the silhouette of a man. Who's there? Who are you? The words resound in my mind, but no sound comes from my lips. He approaches the bed, leans over, pulls open an eye and shines a torch directly into the pupil. Where am I? What am I doing here? How did I get here? Don't hurt me, please don't hurt me. He fiddles with something behind my head, a tapping sound, more bleeps, lower in tone, something warm and heavy stealing up my hand and inside my arm. My head is full of static. Help me! Somebody help me, please! Small pricks of light sparkle before my eyes like stars on the night sky. No, I must fight this overwhelming terror, this suffocating blanket of darkness. I must stay awake. I will not let him. I need to know. When I next wake, the room is lighter. Voices, distant footsteps on hard flooring. I'm reassured that several people are nearby rather than the lone figure in the dark. My eyes are already half open. Everything's blurry, but through the lashes I can make out pale walls and a garish curtain half drawn across the room. I'm in hospital. An antiseptic smell mingles with the aftertaste of a succession of powerful dreams. Not dreams exactly, but muddled and arbitrary images which float through my mind like homesick ghosts. In the last one, my flatmate, Kiki, is screaming. I don't understand what she's saying. She seems so close that I'm surprised she isn't here. Hello? Can anyone hear me? Is anybody there? Again, my thoughts are trapped inside. A tube has been forced up my nose and down my esophagus. This accounts for the dry soreness of my throat. I want to cough, but I can't. I want to gag, but can't gag either. Fear and claustrophobia swell like a swallowed scream, and for a few minutes I think I'm going to choke. I would pull the tube out if I could, but my arm won't respond. A door pushes open with a suck of air. The curtain swishes aside. From the corner of my eye I glimpse a man with a stethoscope around his neck, followed by a man in a dark suit. As you can see, there's no improvement in her condition. In fact, the longer she remains like this, the worse the prognosis. When he speaks, the room turns cold and blue. Why are her arms strapped to her sides? It's to stop her pulling out the tubes. She's moving then? No, not yet at any rate. She's out of the medically induced coma, but so far there's been little change. But her eyes are open, Doctor. We can't read too much into that at this stage. Unfortunately, she's not responding to outside stimuli. Their words are distorted, as though I'm hearing them from underwater. The man in the dark suit steps nearer, bends and stares into my eyes. His face is lined and sallow. Yesterday's stubble clings to his jaw. I try to pull back. Excuse me, I can hear you. I am here, you know. They take no notice. People come out of comas, he says abruptly. She was in a coma last week because we put her in one. She's out of that now. We hope to be able to decrease the intracranial pressure until the swelling came down. It's a way of lessening potential brain damage. If she were still in a coma, her eyes would be closed. She seems to be experiencing a sleep-wake cycle. It's called unresponsive wakefulness syndrome. But she's looking right at me. The sallow man gazes deeply into my eyes, searching. There are small flecks of gold around his pupils, and they are kind eyes. I try to smile. Yes, but what you're seeing is partial arousal rather than true awareness. We used to call it a vegetative state. A vegetable? The man straightens up. Please don't look away, I'm here. I'm struggling to breathe in, breathe out, do anything. I'm trying to remember how to speak. That's why I prefer the term unresponsive wakefulness. There are less negative connotations. Help me, if you look at me again, you'll see I'm here. I strain to escape the prison I'm in, but my body is as stiff as iron bars. Her brainstem is uninjured, the doctor continues. That's why she can breathe unaided. The lower vegetative functions, such as respiration and digestion, are working normally. If she remains like this for a couple more weeks, however, the condition will be turned persistent. After a year with no improvement, it will be classified as a permanent vegetative state. I see. What's the matter with you? Why aren't you listening to me? Where's Michael? Do you know what happened? Her notes are sketchy, the doctor inquires. I'll ask the questions if you don't mind, sir. The other man's tone is muscular, taut. And the blood tests? Was there any alcohol in her blood? There's a movement at the bottom of my bed, the sound of pages turning. I assume the doctor has picked up my notes. A small amount, 1 glass of wine perhaps. Drugs? No. And in your medical opinion, have you seen anything inconsistent with an accidental fall? Anything to suggest something else? Attempted suicide, you mean? Suicide? Why would I try to kill myself? Hasn't Michael told you we love each other? Or murder. You need a body for that, Inspector. I want to scream at them to stop talking about me as if I'm not here. Their words are rising like bubbles, each one bursting upon my understanding with a sharp shock. Yes, you're right. I'm preempting the situation. Hypothetically speaking, I sense rather than see the doctor lean over the bed. I can't turn my head to see what he's doing, but his hands rest with a shriek at the side of my head. It's difficult to say. She's received a traumatic brain injury consistent with a fall, but whether it was intentional or an accident is up to you to decide. She's had neurosurgery to dig some skull fragments out of her brain, so everything we're seeing here, the bruising and swelling round her face, is probably as a result of the patch-up job. His words fly like starlings round the room, scattering black feathers and squawking in the corners. So we've lost any forensics. Probably there have been a lot of people working on her. So if a blunt instrument was involved... A blunt instrument? Rage and panic rise within me and I gag in terror. She's coughing, the inspector says. Just an involuntary reaction to the feeding tube. The wound is healing. There might be microscopic particles in the skull, but they will be absorbed into her body. Would you like me to speak to the staff in A&E who treated her on arrival? We'll do that, thank you, sir, the inspector says, asserting his authority. He begins to pace back and forth across the room. He crosses my line of vision intermittently. As things stand, I'm unable to order a post-mortem or hold an inquest. You told me last week you didn't think she would survive. What do you make of her chances now? She may wake spontaneously within a few days or weeks. Her heart rate quickened unexpectedly last night and my colleague sedated her lightly to prevent the risk of cardiac arrest. Chances of recovery depend on the extent of the injury and the patient's age. Younger patients do better. At 35, she has an average chance, but the longer she's in this state, the more severe the resulting disabilities are likely to be. It's not something I'd say to her friends and relatives, of course, but between you and me, to all intents and purposes, Dr. Matilda Moss is dead. If you enjoy the book, I'd love you to let me know, and it would also be great if you could tell other people. Banging one's own drum isn't easy. I found that posting and tweeting about my writing is very difficult to do. I get this horrible feeling that I'm spamming people all the time and that everyone's heard too much from me. So word of mouth and personal recommendation would just be great, as they're the best ways to sell books. You could be one of the first to write a review on Amazon or on Goodreads, or you could mention the novel in a blog or on Facebook. Perhaps you might think of buying one to a friend or someone in the family for Christmas. Please sign my visitor's book. It's on the table where I'll be signing. So I've got a memento of everyone who came tonight. If you leave me your email address, I can put you on my mailing list. I've only sent one newsletter so far. It's quite a complicated thing to do on my website. So you definitely won't be overwhelmed with letters. But just if you want to know about what my news of my next writing adventure is, sign up. So thank you once again for coming and sharing this special evening with me. And I hope to get a chance to speak to all of you if I can. So as some of you need to get off early, I'd better get off and start signing those books. Thank you.
So do pick up a copy or several of the books, which Catherine is very happy to sign. If you'd like to know a little bit more about Instant Apostle, some of the other titles, do pick up a catalogue. They're dotted around in the foyer. And yeah, enjoy the rest of the evening. Thank you very much for coming.
So I just mentioned that Michael Portillo's downstairs and having an interval tonight, so they're going to close the bar early. So if anybody had intended at some point to go down to the bar, I suggest that you go before down the shutters.
Okay, thank you.
Straight